Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I wanted to continue on my channel on positive vibes about this John Cutter book, which is called My Iceberg's Melting. And the point about that book is just basically people in the how people react to other people. But the big issue for me about this is, as a psychologist, is this urgency or this state of urgency that exists with certain people. Uh, yeah, yesterday I was doing some observation and was doing some work. I'm not going to say where, but there's when I was working, people would was doing service deliveries, and when people would stop or yell out the window or come out their door, they would go back inside their home and they would spend some time doing what they need to do and then come back out. And it always occurs to me about this state of lack of urgency that exists amongst people. And the, the issue for me is that when people don't have the state of urgency, they they have a tendency to just go along with the flow and not necessarily create a sense of being conscious of a person who's out trying to get things done, but it's more about themselves and not necessarily about, well, they can wait and then I'll go out there. And it's not that. It's more about what I need to do and not necessarily lack that sense of urgency. So the point is, I think I was telling somebody last night, and I also talked to somebody this afternoon after I got up from a really bad sinus cold and I worked late. Um, I said this is something that can't be trained. It's something that can be trained when you're young, but it does not occur until uh, it has to be tried and true over a long period of time. And this is where I often say that that one of the issues that I see myself sometimes is the Cincinnati Public Schools, where I think they've tried, or this generation of lacks this sense of urgency about things. And this should have been taught at the school level, or elementary, middle school, and high school. And I think what it was is just, I don't know what had a disconnect, or it was taught, and the people just either didn't listen to it or didn't give a shit. And the point that occurs out of this is if you lack this sense of urgency, you can't better your life. Then the goal becomes, instead of trying to better one's life, what you end up doing is you end up living in coexistence. I was talking to a gentleman last night while I was at work, and a person came across my mind, and I said to them that I knew a person that was happy just coexisting. And I said there's a lot of people at this time, as long as they're getting a check from the government, as long as they're getting some food on the table, as long as they get some type of shelter on their head, which is fine. This is part of, and when we talk about this, is a big issue with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That you got to get your basic needs met, and some people feel that's all they need to do, and they never can reach those five levels. Like the top level of self-actualization moving forward. While the other hand, that some people do get that, people like Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, for example, become to that self-actualization, and they're able to better their lives and move things forward because they have this what I call this sense of urgency, and that they don't necessarily have this thing about um, just coexisting. And like I said, I see this as part of the problem with the Cincinnati Public School system, and that they're uh, either they didn't teach this or they taught it and it was misunderstood. And I see this. quite often. It's like I was talking to somebody yesterday, and there were like out of excuse me, where I was at, there was about like 8 or 10 people could not say the word eclair. No, this is something that should be, but they just called it something. Would call it something else than I was trying to understand. But the sign said chocolate eclair, and they could not say the word eclair. No, this is something that should have been taught at the basic Cincinnati school, but somehow my assumption is uh, we got a generation of that like the self motivation, self urgency. But as long as the government, they're getting a check from the government, being subsidized by the city of Cincinnati, being subsidized by the government or whatever, they're okay with that and move on with life. And I think that's a flaw of thinking because of the whole system. I'm not saying it might, but if it failed, you would have to come up with some kind of trade or some way to make money other than doing things illegally. And that becomes an issue with people because you got to have that self actualization or self realization that I could do this and maybe do things and make my life a lot better. And what happens is people just say, well, I'll coexist and let the government take care of me. And it's not, and my big point, and always been my contention too, is not the government or the city of Cincinnati or Cincinnati Public School responsibility to teach you, to make you a better student, or the responsibility is laid upon the individual and not necessarily the individual uh, 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 situation within our organization. And that's why sometimes I think to myself that I should get more politically involved because I think we're going to have a generation of people, especially in Cincinnati, because of their uh, flawed policy by the Cincinnati Public School, that are just not going to have the ambition or the knowledge how to better their life. And just because you or a certain creed or a certain belief about something does not necessarily mean that you're entitled. And that's always another issue of mine is that certain people are not entitled to life. You're only entitled to do or be who you are and go from there. And I'm always contention. I tell anybody or any of my friends if I do cases, you're the captain of your own ship. You make those decisions, and it's not the government's responsibility. It's not the city of Cincinnati's responsibility. It's not Cincinnati Public School to make this decision. It is your responsibility, and I think this loses focus. I'm not saying everybody is wrong with this, but I just think there's a generation now that we're going through this that certain situations where people um, and some of this has to do with Frank Lloyd, with all the police brutality that existed with African Americans too, which I think is totally wrong, and this should be something that be addressed too. But there's an old saying in psychology and even sociology: the pendulum swings both ways. You can't have corruption on one side and then be no corruption. It's the same thing with people have to be empowered to do things, and when we're not empowering them and just accept things as norm, then things will happen. So, and then that's where the decision making becomes flawed, and when there's no good decision making because no one taught them how to do it, then they feel frustrated and they feel like hopelessness. And this goes on in the Native American community, but it goes on in many inner city locations, especially among minorities. And I think that certain uh, um, nonprofit organizations that work within the city have lost focus on that. And one reason that I'm not working for a nonprofit right now and that I want to create my own because I think we lost our focus on that. and that we were entitled to certain things. We're not entitled to shit. So, well, the only thing we're entitled to is drink the. If you think you're entitled to something, go drink the Kool-Aid. It's not. It's not the issue. The issue it becomes empowering and giving agency to people, and then moving forward from there. So, anyway, these are some food for thoughts today. So, anyway, if you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. I do have two channels. One's the Native American Reservation, other one's the Positive Vibes Reservations. So feel free to like and subscribe. Do have books available on Amazon for purchase. I don't overprice my books. And the reason, and this was the contention, I told somebody, one of the Penguin books reached out to me about something, and I said the intent of my books are not to make money. If or my contention is if I get a New York Times bestseller, great, fantastic. But my intention is never to make money off the books. It's to inform and to educate. And I think this is where things get lost in the focus, because a lot of people write books to think they get rich, and that's not the contention to make money. The intention is to inform and to make people better lives. Anyway, I will try to get a video out later this week or sometime over the weekend. Anyway, hope to talk to you soon, folks, and have a great day. Talk to you soon.